What's up guys, my name is Jellycut5 and welcome back to another preview where we look at Chelsea versus West Ham as the Hammers travel to Stamford Bridge in the Monday night kickoff at 8 o'clock. Before we do get into this video, if you haven't done so already, please hit that like button, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and don't forget to hit that notification button. Really appreciate it if you can do all those things. 80% of you are currently unsubscribed to the channel, so hit that big red button, it's completely free and I'd love to get all your footy fanatics and all the Chelsea fans on here I can possibly get. So a London derby, something that we'd probably be going into a little bit more confidently if our performances had have kind of been good as of late, but they haven't been, and it's as simple as that. We haven't been good enough, and is this the time to now take the step up? And if we actually want it, and if they chat as much as what they do, then we realistically should see a performance on Monday. But that's only if they can actually play for the badge, and I just haven't seen that as of late. West Ham are kind of rejuvenated under the form of Graham Potter now. They look a slightly more stable side. You could argue realistically they look so much more better compared to what they did under Lopetegui and so on. Yes, the results haven't exactly gone their way, but at the same time there is more stability. So we're probably playing West Ham at the wrong time, in fairness, and obviously it is Graham Potter that visited Chelsea since his sacking from the Blues, which is really interesting to see. Before I go into the depths of the game and what I think, just in terms of injury news, Lavia, Fofana are the highest profile injured players realistically at the moment at Chelsea, while Badiashile is still ruled out and Mikhailo Mudryk unavailable due to suspension due to ongoing tests. In terms of West Ham, also, Mavropanos is back from suspension after serving his one-game suspension following that sending off for 2 yellow cards against Crystal Palace. Jared Bowen is returning for the Hammers with Lucas Paqueta with a slight knock, with Mikel Antonio, Nicholas Frucklog and Somerville have all been ruled out, with Tabibo expected to be able to join them on the sideline. So, a few different bits of injury news for both sides, it has to be said. Going into the game, am I confident? No. Maresca has admitted he's contributing basically the factor of Robert Sanchez hasn't been good enough, and it's quite recent it hasn't been the case, and Maresca's kind of backed him up, and we've been very frustrated to hear that. He's admitted that he's considering placing Robert Sanchez with Philip Jorgensen after the former recent mistakes in goal, and I feel that's wise. If someone's not doing their job, then they need to be replaced. It's as simple as that. I don't know when there comes under a time where we start making excuses and so on for the mistakes that have been made in front of goal, because it hasn't been good enough. I mean, I watched a compilation last night just on TikTok of all the recent mistakes that Sanchez made, and they're not just small mistakes, they're game-changing mistakes, and you believe if they didn't happen, the amount of results that we could have got from games that we haven't. Yes, Chelsea have capitulated in different games, and yes, Chelsea haven't been good enough in different games in terms of strike, midfield, defence and so on, but the goalkeeper sides of things hasn't been good enough, and I truly believe if we've had a better goalkeeper in between the sticks in the last 2 seasons, that we would have definitely progressed much better compared to what we have done so. We spent 20 million on a goalkeeper from Villarreal in the summer, so why are we not using him? It's as simple as that. I think there's really time for us now to be able to push on with that, and whether we sign a new goalkeeper in the summer or it's going to be the case where Petrovic comes back with Mike Penders, I'm not too sure. But on the topic of the game, I'm looking forward to it with being a derby, but not looking forward to it the form that we've displayed. I'm just hoping that we're able to put in a performance. The game against City really kind of showed what we're lacking, and that's a lot of leadership. First half, we looked pretty strong. At the same time, we're lacking confidence. I mean, moments where Palmer went one-on-one with the keeper and he's squaring it to Jackson, and Jackson can't sort his feet out. Just different moments in the game where we're really lacking and feel like we're really kind of going down as a side. I still have faith in Maresca. I don't believe that there should be calls for his kind of questions about his appointment and it should be sacked. I don't think that's right whatsoever, and I don't think that's the right move to make whatsoever. I don't believe that we're any better than what we were under Pochettino, in fairness, and people could argue that, but at the end of the day, we're in the same position of what we finished in last season. So unless we're going to go on a run and actually put decent performances together, then we're still going to be in the same boat of what we were last season, and we spend more money. There needs to be changes made, as mentioned, and I'm hoping that Maresca is able to do so, but I'm hoping that Maresca is to pull the side together, because at the end of the day, I mean, you look at it now, we're at the end of January and we're going into February now. We've still got a lot to play for in the season. There's still a lot to play for. We're still in the FA Cup. We're still in a decent position to potentially finish top 4 in the league. We was never going to win it in the first place, so we'll kind of disregard that. Realistically, we should look at it knowing that we are able to still achieve top 4 with it being in our reach, and I'll go into the table in a minute. And I think we should look at it in the fact if there's still still a lot to play for this season. We've got the Conference League, we've got the FA Cup, and we've got a top four of the Premier League. If we're able to finish in the top four in the Premier League, potentially have a good run in the FA Cup and win the Conference League, then I don't see why that wouldn't be a successful season. But with the way that we've been playing as of late, I can't see that. That's the only worrying factor to it. And there's a big kind of aroma surrounding Stamford Bridge, in fairness, in terms of the disregard to how we've been as fans and so on. And I think fans are really starting to get fed up. I mean, don't get me wrong, we all love our club and so on, but we've paid an extra £100 as season ticket holders, and we're not getting the benefit of that. We might be paying the cheapest out of the top six, but are we a top six team anymore? I'm not too sure. But getting on to West Ham's form, as I mentioned, Graham Potter has kind of rejuvenated the side in some regards. Looking at their recent form, it doesn't exactly look like they've actually kind of done that, in fairness. I mean, you look at the big loss against Liverpool, big loss against Man City, and then obviously the first game against Aston Villa, where they nearly was able to get a result against Aston Villa, where was it obviously a dodgy decision had gone against them, so it was fair enough. Bounced back against Fulham, which was a decent 3-2 win, and then kind of capitulated again against Crystal Palace after Mavropanos got sent off and they get a 2-0 loss at home. And then they put a decent performance to be able to grind out a point at Villa Park. So they're very up and down, but I think they're not the finished article by any means whatsoever. And Graham Potter has got a lot to do, but at the same time, he's got players that aren't his. So I feel like he's doing a good job in some ways. I truly believe that Potter would have done a better job at Chelsea if he had the players that he wanted in the first place, and he didn't join a team that was so disconnected from everything else. I believe he is a good manager, and what he's shown at Swansea and Brighton has been very good collective performances, and he's definitely developed a team, and he kind of shows different strengths in the side that he's able to do so. I mean, the initial run that we actually went on when he first joined the club was unbelievable. Just couldn't really seem to follow it, unfortunately, which was a bit unfortunate on his behalf, and obviously that kind of went down to him being sacked in the end. So I do believe that West Ham are a threat. Maresca has mentioned they're an aggressive side. They're a good side to play against. It's a derby. The fans are going to be up for it on both sides. And it's a game under the lights. I think it's got everything to be a potential kind of good game for the season. But at the same time, both sides need to turn up. And I'm not just talking about West Ham. I'm talking about Chelsea also, because we've done it so many times but we haven't turned up. I mean, we've got a potential to do the double over them this season. Last season, we finished really well by beating them 5-0 as well. So we're quite capable of putting this game to one side and realistically getting a performance out of different players and so on, and being able to kind of get the result. But at the same time, the attitude needs to be right, and we need to be able to kind of go into the game knowing that we are able to kind of get out on top. And I feel that's been the concern for us at the moment. I think with confidence an all-time low, I don't think we're actually trusting the ability of some of the players that we've got, and that's not just us. I think that's just the players themselves being able to kind of not really know what they're actually able of kind of being capable of. Our recent form against West Ham has been pretty good, in fairness. In the last 5, we've won 3, drawn 1 and lost 1. Kind of looking at the head-to-head, that wasn't the case, and our form against West Ham prior to that was actually quite poor. So it's nice to see that's kind of on the up, and we can kind of better that once again with a win against them at Stamford Bridge. So depending on what we can do, obviously it's going to be a difficult game, but at the same time, I'm definitely going to be up for it, and I'm hoping the players are, that's for sure. But let's get a little bit further into this preview, and we'll talk about the table, the lineup, and my score prediction. Now, these are the current standings for this moment in time. If you told me this was going to look like this from the start of December to where we are now at the end of Jan, I would have probably laughed at you and think, that's not going to be the case. But this is where we are at as a club at the moment. Currently sitting 6th in the table, level on points with Bournemouth and level on goal difference at the same time. So nothing deters us whatsoever. If Aston get a win and we don't, then they can be level on us, just not on the goal difference. And it depends on the results between Newcastle and Man City also, because they are currently 1 point ahead of us. So the gap isn't massive. I mean, there's still a 4-point gap and a 7-point gap between ourselves and Forest and Arsenal. So the gap isn't massive, and I look at it in a kind of in a level head and think, do you know what, this is achievable. Forest have got Brighton at home. Obviously, they had a poor performance against Bournemouth away, so they'll be looking for a bounce back. Newcastle are playing an informed Fulham side at home at this moment in time, so that could be a kind of tough one to be able to call. And then going on to Sunday, Arsenal are playing Manchester City, which is going to be a massive game at the Emirates, and realistically you're probably hoping for an Arsenal win in that regard, to be able to have it where we can kind of push on the table and potentially surpass them on Monday. So I'm not too sure if the result's going to go our way between Newcastle and Fulham, but at the same time I reckon it can kind of go our way between Arsenal and Man City, and if they were to do us a favour and we were to win our game on Monday, then at least that's one team that we've surpassed, and we can able to look at it a bit further and being able to kind of get some points on other teams and so on. But yeah, I mean, we're kind of hoping for the results around us sort to kind of work against the other teams and so on, and we kind of play on that and then get ourselves into a better position once again. But that's an ifs, buts and maybes. We need to kind of rely on our own performance and hope that the others kind of do a job for us. But that's just how it works at the end of the day. There's so many points where teams can drop points in the season. But I mean, Man City aren't exactly the strongest side at the moment, and I don't think their performance against us really reiterated that we played a good side, because I don't think we did. And same against Club Brugge, in fairness. I mean, going 1-0 down and then kind of having that second goal, which was an own goal, and then obviously they got a third in the end. But I don't think they're the finished kind of product whatsoever, Man City, and I feel like they're lacking in a lot of areas. So if Arsenal are able to do us a favour, then at least that's one team that we could potentially get points on and then go on even further to potentially kind of get that top 4 spot, because that's really needed. Because if it's not, then I think we're in big trouble, that's for sure. This would be my lineup against West Ham. There's a few players that are on here that I don't want to see on the pitch, but at the same time I don't think we've got any other choice. Jorgensen in goal. If Jorgensen doesn't start, then he's never going to start at the end of the day, and Sanchez can make as many mistakes as he wants because he's never going to drop him. Jorgensen was brought in ideally for being a cup keeper, but I think it's quite clear to see that he's going to surpass Sanchez if he is able to get a decent game time in the Premier League. You can't just play a player here and there and expect him to play. I feel like when called upon, he's been pretty good. So unfortunately, it's just one of those, and hopefully he does get given the chance, because Sanchez isn't worthy the spot whatsoever, and I don't want to see him in the goal because he just completely worries me from minute 1 to minute 90, to be honest. Left hand side, Cucurella didn't have the best of games against Manchester City, but his overall season has been pretty special, in fairness, and I don't see why he wouldn't be on that left hand side. Right hand side, Reece James, obviously coming back from injury in the recent days, and obviously being able to play a few games here and there has kind of bettered his confidence and his performance in games as well. I don't think anyone had a good game against Manchester City, so I don't think we can kind of base it off of that, but his games against Wolves and Bournemouth have been pretty good, in fairness. Back to Chalobah and Colwill. I know we've seen Chalobah and Tosin and so on, but that's probably our strongest pairing between the two. Again, didn't really play against Manchester City, but once again, who did, in fairness. Midfield pairing of Enzo and Caicedo seems to be our strongest options in the midfield. Left-hand side, Sancho. Right-hand side, Noni. And middle, Palmer. I'm not really a big fan of our wingers, in fairness. I don't think Noni really offers us a lot. I know he scored in his recent 2 games against Wolves and City, but are we really going to base that off of his kind of real great performance, or are we just going to base that off if he was just there at the right time and the right moment, realistically, because that's how I feel. Jadon Sancho hasn't really done it for me. As I mentioned, he's always on the top on a TikTok compilation, but I just don't think he really does it for us. He kind of brings out the moments of brilliance and assists and so on, but I don't think he offers us enough to be able to kind of run at your man and really do something, and I don't think we've got enough wingers to do that. We really lack someone that's going to be able to drive at your man and really kind of cause him a problem from 1 minute on to minute 90, and unfortunately we've never been able to replicate that on the wing. Cole Palmer in the middle, he's had so much work to do, to be honest, and you find with Palmer's work that he seems to have to kind of drop back to be able to receive the ball, to be able to push through the middle and then extend the width and be able to kind of go forward from there. And a lot of people have kind of gone on the back of Palmer saying, oh, he doesn't turn up in the big games and so on. But if everyone else did his job in the first place, then I don't think he'd be mopping up for so many other people. So, and if we're not careful, then he'll be gone. Without Palmer, we're nothing. And if nobody realises that, then you need to be able to support another football team, because without him, we're nothing. Last season, we would have been nowhere without him. And this season is the same, to be honest, because he's such a big contributing factor to that team. Even if he doesn't score, even if he doesn't assist, he does so much on that pitch. It's unbelievable. And if you take the time just to watch him as an individual, then maybe you might realise that. And I'm not saying that people don't, but I feel like there's a few people that get on his back for no reason. And I think if we were to lose him, then they'll be the ones crying that we don't have him anymore. So that's one of those. Nicolas Jackson up top. I don't think our striker options are strong enough, and Jackson can perform to his worst ability possible. He'll still be on the pitch because we don't have another striker alternative. Personally, I'd stick in Mark Gui, but that's never going to happen. I know there's talks about Evan Ferguson and whoever, but I'm not really too sure. I want a proven number 9, in fairness, that's going to score us 20 goals. And I know people say we haven't had one since Drogba, but we haven't had one since Diego Costa, shall we say, because he was probably the next improvement that we had. I know he didn't have the longevity at Chelsea, but at the same time, when you look at his seasonal stats, he was unbelievable for us. This is my score prediction at the end of this video. I'll go for a Chelsea 2, West Ham 1. I feel like we'll have too much of West Ham, in fairness, if we're able to turn up on the day. I don't think it'll be a complete performance, and I think there'll be moments about our game that will potentially kind of worry us, but doesn't at all as watching Chelsea, to be honest. It's never a proven article, shall we say. It's a game that we should be out for. It's a derby. It's a vital 3 points, and depending on the results ahead of us, then we could be potentially making up places in the table. So hopefully, if we get the right Chelsea team turn up, then we'll be fine. But if we don't, then we're in problems, and there's going to be more questions and doubts and so on. And that's where it really starts going bad for ourselves. Because in all honesty, if we lose this game and other teams pick up points and so on, and then you look at the fixtures that we have got ahead of us, as much as it looks a little bit easier, I just don't know where we go from there. Because if we're not able to turn over a West Ham side that's been pretty poor this year, then I'm not too sure who we're going to turn over, to be honest. And we should sort of kind of look towards next season instead of looking at still this season. But it's interesting to see, that's for sure. We've got to stay as positive as we can, as much as it's easy to be negative. I hope the fans get behind the players, and I hope that there's an atmosphere at Stamford Bridge to be able to kind of create, and the players can really play on. Because Stamford Bridge is a morgue, to be honest, and it really frustrates me that that's the case. But we shall see. We shall see. It's all it's a game of football. It's a game of 90 minutes, and it's 11 men versus 11 men. Anything can happen at the end of the day, and that's what people got to realise. So we shall see. But that is it for this preview. Hopefully, I'm talking to you after the game with a positive attitude and that we've won the game. But we shall see to then. Obviously, I'm attending the game, so I will talk to you after that. Bear with me, but I will have a review up fairly late on Monday night. And that is it for now. I hope you guys have enjoyed this one. Please like and subscribe for more content, and don't forget to hit that notification button so you never miss a video. Cheers.